Assalamu alaikum. I'd like to respond to the protesters, the Sunni protesters who protested against the Shia-made movie Lady of Heaven about Fatima, radiallahu anha, the daughter of the Prophet. Now, as a Sunni myself, I wholeheartedly condemn those Sunni protesters who were braying like wolves, acting like monkeys, basically, in intimidating cinema owners or cinema managers or moviegoers. And I think that a non-Muslim, when they see a Muslim, they should feel a sense of security, a sense of peace, a sense of serenity, not feel intimidated and threatened.
Protesters picketing screenings of The Lady of Heaven, ensuring it is one of the most talked about films out now.
So shame on these Sunni brothers who intimidated people. And also I condemn them for giving publicity to a movie which does not deserve publicity. So it's completely backfired. So as a result, more and more people are going to watch it when it comes out on video on demand. So these bunch of idiots have not learned from the lessons of the parental generation in 1989 when these bunch of braying wolves again protested against the Satanic Verses by Salman Rushdie. And what happened as a result? They gave that book more publicity, which meant that more and more people were exposed, or were interested to buy the book. And they were exposed to some of the very horrible content about Muhammad and his wives. So it's surprising that these Sunni idiots just did not realize that their protest would backfire. You think that you've won a reward from Allah by trying to take down the movie Lady of Heaven, when in fact it's actually completely backfired or will backfire when it comes out, because as a result millions of people will be watching that on demand. So shame on you, absolute criminal behavior. And when I watched the interviews on news channels about 2 weeks ago by some of the Sunni brothers, again their contributions were absolutely despicable when engaging with the producer of the movie. I think it's from Rafida Plus, the Shia organization. And the movie was, I think, produced or written by Sheikh Yasser al-Habib. And what is really, really ironic and really puzzling is that the movie is actually based on Shia literature, which is already publicly available. Okay? So there's nothing new in the movie. As I have not watched the movie. I would have watched it when it came out, but I learned about it too late, and by that time the movies had been taken down. So it would have been good to actually watch it and then respond accordingly. And dialogue and debate between Sunnis and Shias have actually happened and continues to happen, and that should obviously continue. So to act like braying wolves and force people or movie theatres to take down the movie, it is an absolute disgrace. That should not have happened, because you've given it publicity when it shouldn't deserve publicity. So the best way, I think the best approach is to respond in kind. So I am coming out with a book, inshallah. It is titled Aisha and Fatima, Ladies of Heaven, a Sunni response to Shiaism. So it's a response I had a dialogue with a Shia brother about 20 years ago, and then about a decade ago there were some Q&A sessions I was involved in with some of the Shia TV channels and Shia scholars. So that's all captured in the book. And very recently my further insights into the Sunni Shia issue or Shiaism. So that will be available very soon, inshallah, on Amazon Books. And to be frank, and at the risk of trying to boast, the movie Lady of Heaven cost around £12 million or $12 million to produce and to promote. My book won't cost that much, but I think that the value content in that book will far outweigh the value content of The Lady of Heaven. So look out for that book, because that is the best way to reply, is through a book or through discourse and debate, which is happening anyway. And I'll also condemn, or I don't agree with the Al-Mahdi Institute, and that's a Shia institution in the UK, because some Shia scholars from that institute and some Sunni scholars, they wrote an agreement condemning the movie because it was widening the schisms between Sunnis and Shia. Now, I totally disagree with that approach. There's nothing, because unity should be based not on trying to not offend each other, but based on what we disagree with, and to engage in dialogue and debate in an atmosphere of brotherhood. That's what should be happening. So I don't agree with the Al-Mahdi Institute and the signing of the Shia Sunni scholars, because you're just burying the disagreements that really should be aired and should be discussed openly. Because if you really think about it, and this is for the Sunni brothers, is that the Shia scholars like Ayatollah Khamenei in Iran, and other Shia scholars, I think it was Sayyid Ahmad Naqshbandi, although he did like the movie in terms of condemning Sheikh Yasser al-Habib. He's the one who's been have a more of an intimidation approach, an open approach. I think I have more respect for Sheikh Yasser al-Habib than I do for the other Shia scholars, because the reason, you need to think about this. What is the reason some of those Shia scholars have condemned Yasser al-Habib? It's not because they disagree with him; they disagree with his approach, not the belief. Do you understand that? So this still needs to be unpicked. So that's why dialogue and debate is more appropriate. So look out for that book, inshallah. It will be coming out around about August time on Amazon. And a message for Shia brothers, just as you have condemned and rightly so, right to condemn the Sunni protesters for trying to get the movie banned. When my book comes out, inshallah, and it is, although it is a dialogue with a Shia brother and some Shia scholars, it is not favourable towards Shiaism. It really isn't. So when you come across that book, I hope you will not be protesting against that book, that you stand to your word. If you believe in free expression, free speech, well, here it is. And I would expect that book to be available in the Shia-led Iran, okay, and some parts of Iraq, which are Shia areas, and that Shia brothers as a whole should not condemn the book, but should certainly promote it, if you are really, really sincere in debate and dialogue and discussion. So we'll see, inshallah, when my book comes out. Otherwise, I hope things do die down. And it looks like 2 weeks on, it has the issue has died down. And Sunni brothers, you should not feel proud of what you've done, because you've upped the ante. You've given the movie publicity, just as those idiots in 1989 gave the Satanic Verses publicity, and more people will be exposed to some of the bad characteristics of our companions and Aisha radiallahu anha, which is a complete disgrace. But anyway, let's see, inshallah. Okay, assalamu alaikum.